I got told that, and within 30 days, I was in Cambodia. And I was like, where in the world am I?
Tom, welcome to Rising Giants. It's been a long time coming, and we're excited to be discussing more about real estate, especially given the fact that it's 2024 in Cambodia, and we've had a bit of um, what's the word? A bit of a downturn in the real estate market this year. So it's good to sort of touch on that and see what's going on. But before we do all that, we'd love to just hear about your journey coming to Cambodia. So what made you want to move here in 2013, and what was that? What was that like coming here?
Well, first of all, thanks a lot for having me on. I don't. I came here in 2013. It was all very unplanned. I was pretty happy with what I was doing. I'd recently finished my commerce degree, majoring in entrepreneurship. I was really comfortable with what I was doing in work and where I was living and the friends I had. But someone through my network uh, reached out to me with an opportunity in Cambodia. And I guess I didn't know it at the time, but I was ready for a bit of a something different, something out of the box, something exciting. So I got told that. I got told that, and within 30 days, I was in Cambodia. So I didn't know. I didn't know much about the country at all. I just thought it'd be a great adventure, and arrived at the Phnom Penh airport, picked up in a taxi, and whisked away to Battambang.
There you go.
And I really didn't research much at all. So I think it was 5 or 6 hours in the car, maybe longer. I got out of the car in Battambang, dusty as hell. I hadn't really shaved, so I was super hot. And I was like, where in the world am I? Right? Because I didn't even spend a night in Phnom Penh. So I originally moved to Cambodia to help a friend who runs an NGO in Battambang. I think it's quite a typical story, or my story is not so unique in that sense of how people sort of first moved to Cambodia. So that project was to help start a social enterprise training restaurant. And I thought I'd help there for 6 months. I ended up there for, I think, 2 years. The first 6 months, that feeling was still remained like, what am I doing here? I don't feel comfortable here. But I just had this thing inside me. I didn't want to move back because I'd be seen as such a fail, right? And then all of a sudden, I got used to life in a very small town with not a very big expat community, and just put my head down and got the project sort of up and running, and stayed there for 2 years. And the place is still open today, 10 years later. So I think for a hospitality business to stay open for 10 years, I'm super proud that it's
Wow.
still open. So that's what brought me to Cambodia, yeah.
And remind us, where are you from in Australia?
I'm from Melbourne.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Melbourne, Australia.
So what was that like going from Melbourne to Battambang? Like just
Yeah,
such
I
a
mean,
big shift in, yeah,
super cosmopolitan
yeah,
city,
right.
great sort of fashion, hospitality
Yeah,
culture, huge network of friends.
right.
So it was a massive culture shock.
And what did most of your like friends say to you when you were saying I'm moving to, the provinces of Cambodia? What was the initial reaction you got from?
Well, it's more like you're moving to Cambodia because at the time I
Yeah,
didn't define it as a city or a province
right.
or whatever, right? But I think they said like, see you in a month.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. And so you lived there for 2 years.
Mm.
Maybe what is the expat community like in Battambang? I mean, at that time, was it mostly would it be mostly French or?
Yeah, mostly French,
Yeah,
mostly working in NGO sector or teachers.
yeah.
Because the NGO I was with was founded by an Australian,
Mm,
so there was maybe 5 to 10 Aussies,
mm,
so I was comfortable in that sense. And then, yeah, became friends with most of the expats there. Yeah,
mm,
mainly French, yes.
mm. And then what made you want to move to Phnom Penh?
So a very good friend of mine from high school, and I'm sure we'll get into it, started a real estate platform in Papua New Guinea. And we always were planning to start some sort of business together. He had, he is, I guess, studied like a lot more. How do I explain it? He was more not the intellectual guy, but the guy that did all the, I think maybe he got his master's and then he went into, investment firms and that sort of side of it. I guess the money side of it. But I was always the one that was quite entrepreneurial, coming up with business ideas. So we always thought we were a good match. He'd started this platform in Papua New Guinea.
How did he? Sorry, just
Yeah.
How do you end up doing anything in Papua New Guinea?
So he was working there for ANZ Bank.
Okay.
And he had a friend there whose wife was working at the UN.
Yeah.
So his friend had a bit of spare time, and his friend was the tech guy. So they'd started it on the side. It started to get a little bit more serious for them. I think maybe they got like an investor or two. And so then he was sort of always talking to me 12 months before we got going here. He's like, I've got this platform in Papua New Guinea. I've studied Cambodia. I know there's an opportunity there. But I was always like, no, man, I'm doing this thing. And then all of a sudden the day came and I said, let's go.
It's my only like perspective on Papua New Guinea is the prior company that I used to work for before coming to Cambodia. I trained with a Dutch guy and a Spanish guy. The Spanish guy went to Ivory Coast. The Dutch guy went to Papua New Guinea, and I went to Kenya. And I would call up the Dutch guy in Papua New Guinea every now and then, and he was in Port Moresby.
Yeah.
And it just sounded very like that. I think the one thing that really took away from the conversations is quite the security situation is quite rough. Is that still the case? Like, is it like, being a foreigner and living there, you really have to be careful about security?
Yeah, from what I've been told, so I've never been there.
Yeah.
So from what I've been told, absolutely, I think it's the most dangerous country in the world, or one of.
Wow. Why is that? Do you know?
I don't. No, I don't know.
Yeah. But anyway, the real estate platform there was able to grow, and then maybe just talk us through how the idea and how realestate.com.kh got going.
Yeah. So yeah, they had the platform, was relatively successful. I guess the dream for an entrepreneur obviously is to get funding and raise capital and grow. But as you can imagine, no one gets too excited about a platform in Papua New Guinea.
Right.
So they started to think, okay, let's get, we need to go to other markets.
Right.
And I was based in Cambodia. So naturally, one of the founders was looking at Cambodia because I was living here.
Right.
And then said, was always trying to get me to start it. And then at some point, sort of, we got going. And the group was started, so our headquarters is in Australia, and the group was started by a gentleman called James Rodder, who was my friend from school, whose family is one of the biggest real estate sort of groups in Melbourne.
Okay. And what do you think? I mean, I guess arriving in Phnom Penh and setting out on this entrepreneurial journey, what do you wish you were told on day one when you started that you kind of know now, or later on?
Yeah, so when you ask, I've got some, I guess, personal things that maybe I wouldn't advise someone else, but just for me, I didn't realize my love for the ocean in Australia. And, obviously we're close to the ocean here, but it's warm water, there's no waves. So that's probably what I miss most.
Yeah.
The thing professionally, I think I undervalued business chambers and business networks in Phnom Penh for a long time. I don't know why I was like, we can do this ourselves, and I don't need to reach out to groups like this. I don't know why I was like that. I was kind of negative towards it.
Right.
But I definitely think, well, obviously, if I'd engaged in business chambers and business networks more, it
Right.
would have fast-tracked us a bit more. And now I'm more involved in the chambers because I think now that I've been doing business here for a long time, that I can add value to businesses that enter the market or local companies that choose to engage in chambers.
Yeah, I think the one really unique thing about chambers here is that everyone is very open. I mean, the networking culture is, I think, well, from what some of the ones that I've experienced, like this is definitely one of the most friendly places to be able to quickly meet people. But I think, it's harder to do that in an online environment. It's quite people really respond to that like
Of
physical
course.
interaction.
Yep. I agree.
Um, and maybe just talk us through some of the initial challenges that you had to overcome in order to build the business. What was it like in the first 2, 3, 4 years?
Yeah, so I didn't understand real estate in Cambodia, and I'd never been involved in a tech platform. So for me personally, it was learning about real estate in a foreign country and learning about real estate tech and tech in general. And I also had the two founders in Australia that didn't understand the Cambodian market at all. So all that in one was super challenging. The way we got started was actually with a CRM. So the plan was to meet all the real estate agencies in Cambodia and offer them a CRM to help them organize and professionalize their business, with the vision of once we had enough agents on the CRM, using the CRM, we would have enough listings to then launch the platform. And so here I was running around trying to pitch and sell a real estate CRM. I remember the day I turned around to, online obviously, to our group CEO and said, look, I can't sell the CRM because no one uses postcodes and the CRM forces you to input a postcode to upload a listing. And I remember, and he was just like, just sort it out, man. Just sort it out. But then pretty quickly we met the founder of realestate.com.kh. So he's a Cambodian entrepreneur who actually started it in 2009. He was advised by an Australian that he bumped into to buy a bunch of domain names, and one of them was realestate.com.kh, and he was a passionate real estate guy. So he got it going. We sort of identified that he was a sort of owner-operator, entrepreneur. Yep. We sensed he might not have a team or a small team. So we reached out to him. He was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for, an investor and to help me grow the business. I think my mate flew over from Australia. I think we did the deal in like a week.
Wow.
So I guess we dropped the CRM idea. He already had the platform. He already had some listings on it. So then that sort of fast-tracked us, and I could forget about postcodes for a while.
Great. And maybe just talk about like what is the business model look like? And like how has that changed over time?
So we're all going now on realestate.com.kh, and the idea of a platform business, whether it's real estate, whether it's a vertical or a horizontal. So a horizontal platform is like Command24. So you have cars, houses, computers, and so on. And a vertical, so one line of industry, I guess you could say. So typically in a market, you've got real estate, cars, jobs. And then as markets develop, say in Australia, then you might have fashion and so on. So anyway, so we got going. The idea is so with any platform business, the idea is to go out and get all of the stock in the market on one platform to make it convenient for the user. So what we focused on initially was going out, meeting all of the agencies, educating them about the benefits of using a platform, and getting them to upload their listings. So that's pre-monetization. You've got to provide value to the agency, and start to provide value to the property seeker and attracting them onto the platform. So then we started to monetize in a very typical real estate portal manner, where it's based on subscription fees. And then markets to markets differ. So in Australia, the individual agent will pay for their marketing on a platform, whether in Cambodia, the office will pay for the marketing, and all of the agents that work at the agency will benefit from that marketing campaign. So we then started on what we call a freemium model. So it's free to list your properties, but it's pay to upgrade your properties. Or in a package, you might have a number of, say, featured listings that sit at the top of the search results page, and a banner ad, and maybe an article. So agencies, a lot of the leading agencies were then on marketing packages, and property developers as well. So it was all about building recurring revenue. And that was the case all the way up to COVID, really. So we had the advertising revenue, and then we were also doing pretty large real estate events. They started around 2017. So that was really the model. But we were always observing what was happening in the region, and because you're established markets like Singapore or Australia or the UK and so on, there's not been much disruption in this sort of real estate platforms. So it's still today, it's like subscription model. Real estate portals are portals, agencies are agents. But what we started to see in Southeast Asia and, say, China, were real estate platforms move into a commission model, while still remaining to engage all of the property developers and agencies in the relative markets. This became very interesting to us because, as you know, in business, if you don't continue to evolve, you're at risk of someone coming into the market and doing it better than you. So we studied it quite closely, and then we knew we wanted to shift the model slightly to get into the transaction, which is what we say in the real estate portal world. Yeah. But that was always going to be pretty risky, right? Because we didn't want to cannibalize the core of the business, which was the recurring revenue, and we didn't want to offend, in a way, our clients, the real estate agents. But then COVID happened. Just before COVID, we'd also invested in a real estate platform in Thailand, which were monetizing 100% through the transaction. So although we thought it was a great investment, they were also educating us about how they were achieving this in Thailand. So we invested in them, and we brought them to Cambodia to then have both platforms running in Cambodia. But then COVID happened, so very rapidly we had to bring the businesses together, because we lost our recurring revenue like pretty quickly, like 80% of the revenue. So I was like, okay, what are we going to do? Well, we're still going to generate leads, but we're going to generate less leads, which means we can provide value to less agencies and less developers. So the only way we're going to monetize is through the transaction. So because we'd always worked directly with property developers, we 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 would generate leads for property developments, and we started closing the deals directly with them. And then for real estate agencies, they provide the listings, and we co-broke with the agencies 50-50. So uh, whilst we thought that was easy, that was another challenge again. We're never real estate agents before. We probably undervalued the work of a real estate agent at that point in time. We just thought, we generate the leads. How hard can it be? But it's not. It's not so easy. And full respect to agents for sure. And now we employ agents, and I see how hard they actually work. Even if generating the leads tough, but closing the deals just as hard.
And just quickly too, what is the process to become a licensed agent to sell in Cambodia?
So to become a licensed agent, you really need to work for a licensed agency. So you get your license from the real estate regulator, and then as long as you're working under a licensed brand, then you can be an agent.
Okay,
There
straightforward.
are individual courses and licenses you can get as an individual, but as long as you're working as under a licensed brand.
Okay, understood. And just thinking about it too, in terms of the time that the company was being built, it was like Cambodia was a little bit behind the eight ball in terms of development for like digital platforms and tech and internet. So just thinking about it from a consumer perspective, how are you able to gain their trust? I would imagine that even today, being able to like trust an application is something that we, at least in like Western worlds, we just download an application and then we're kind of like, oh, this looks like it's legit or it's not. In Cambodia, I feel like there's a little bit different vibe to it. So I'm wondering, just on your end, how you're able to build trust with the customer to be able to, come back to your platform.
Yeah. So as we got going, I guess the expat community and international buyers understood a real estate portal. So we're able to get the eyeballs on the site, I guess you say, to start providing value to the developers and agencies that way, whilst we set out to educate the local market about what a real estate platform was and the benefits it can provide to them as a property seeker. And that was more about building brand for us, but we really educated and provided value to the market by developing and publishing educational content about real estate. So that could be, what to look for when buying a home, pitfalls to look out for when buying or renting a house in Cambodia, educating them about property tax and ownership laws, how property investment works, and things like that. So, and we still focus on a lot of that content today through articles, through videos, and not just focused on educating the local market, but whether it's expats and international investors as well.
Okay, got it. And for yourself too, it's been quite a journey. How do you remain incentivized along the way as the company is being built too? What are some of the ways that you're able to stick around and kind of continue growing?
Yeah, good question. So ever since day one, I was brought into the business as a sweat equity partner. So when I started, it was a very low salary with the sweat equity component, which I didn't really understand it at the time. My best mate got me into the business, so I had a huge level of trust with him. And each each period or each year I stayed with the business and grew the business, I would continue to earn more sweat equity, and my salary would grow with the growth of the company, I guess. Coming up to today, I certainly think that I earn, market rate salary for anyone in my role. So it's great to have achieved that because it means we've grown the business to a very healthy level. But still today, there's the, I have the ability to earn, to have options, which convert into equity over a period of time. So I would have options converting to equity, say in 12 months' time. So that's one way of staying motivated. But for sure, for me, it's not the main motivation as to why I'm still super passionate about heading up this business in Cambodia.
Yeah, and during that time, when you were, I guess more or less trying to figure out your incentive plan, like between taking on a lower salary, but on the other hand, kind of leaning more into the sweat side. That's because at the time I'm assuming you had full conviction in the business and the trajectory, which I think for a lot of people, it's kind of hard to kind of separate the immediate gratification of whether it's a good salary versus seeing where the product or business can grow over the longer term.
Yeah, I think for me, and I wouldn't advise this, but I think for me, I was quite naive, to be honest. But I just had the trust in one of my best friends from Australia, and I'm always up for an adventure, right? So I didn't really know what I was in for. I always saw opportunities around tech and things like that in Cambodia. But, I was just willing to give anything a go and to give it a go. But again, yeah, I wouldn't advise that to someone. I'd definitely advise, researching and thinking about the opportunity and making sure it makes sense. But pretty quickly, I guess, over the first year or two, then I started to realize the real opportunity that I'd been brought in on. So yeah, I was naive at the start to tell you the truth. Yeah.
And when you say about a couple of instances where where you saw where the future was going to be, what were some, or was there a specific instance that comes to mind that you kind of reflect back on, and that was where it either there's like a light switched, or you're able to really step back and say, this is, I see the path that we're going on?
Yeah, well, I realized the power of what we were building when we started to generate leads for agencies, and they were giving us the feedback that, I'd closed this deal and I'd closed that deal, and some of them quite sizable. I never really, I guess I didn't know exactly how much their commission was at the time, but I could tell, we were really helping to grow their business. And I still get told today by some brands that without you guys, I wouldn't have grown my business to the level it is today. So early on, that was really when the penny dropped and realized that what we were doing could help build a lot of local businesses here, and really help develop the real estate industry in Cambodia. So that's pretty powerful, and I reflect on that today as well in terms of the role we play in developing and professionalizing the industry in Cambodia.
Mm-hmm. And can you talk to us a little bit about what DCG looks like today and how Cambodia fits into that picture as a group now?
Yeah, so obviously DCG has developed over the last 13 years. 2013 was when they launched the business in Papua New Guinea called House Plus. Then the next market we moved into was Cambodia, and along the way continued to gain or to attract investment from mainly I wouldn't say family, friends, and fools, but I'd say wealthy individuals, and wealthy individuals that were mainly also strategic investors. So understood the model, were either in or had experience in similar businesses, mainly from Australia. And then, so that was really how we were funded up until a point of, say, 2016, I think, 2017. Plus, the two founders also had put in a lot of capital into the business as well. So then we had PNG and Cambodia. But then we raised some capital from Belt Road Capital Management in Cambodia, which allowed us to invest in this real estate platform in Thailand called Fazwaz. So then we started running Fazwaz in Cambodia as well. Then we actually exited the Fazwaz investment with a great result. So that then allowed us to look at where else we could grow. So by that point, we're in Papua New Guinea and Cambodia and continuing to want to raise capital. But Cambodia was more attractive than Papua New Guinea for investors. But Cambodia still wasn't that attractive by by population size to larger investment groups. So with the money we raised from Belt Road Capital, we invested in the asset in Thailand called Fazwaz, bought them to Cambodia. We exited Fazwaz at a pretty good result, and then we were like, okay, what's next? How can we grow the business to continue to become more attractive to investment and continue to grow the company, to continue to grow the valuation. So then we met our now group CEO, Mark Nosworthy, I think it was at a real estate portal conference, or I don't exactly know how it happened. I think maybe my then group CEO reached out to him, but we ended up investing in a real estate platform in Bangladesh. So then we had Bangladesh, Cambodia, and Papua New Guinea, and then pretty rapidly, we then did like a cash plus equity swap to acquire the #1 platform in Indonesia and the fastest growing real estate platform in Philippines. Now, these three assets, B Property in Bangladesh and Lamudi in Indonesia and Philippines, were all under EMPG, and our current group CEO, Mark Nosworthy, was I think the CFO of EMPG at the time. So we acquired those businesses off EMPG, and then all of a sudden, pretty rapidly, we became, I think, the biggest player in Southeast Asia, even if not the second biggest, one of the biggest players in the region. Wow. That's all happened in maybe the last 12 months or something. It's been crazy.
Gosh, that is an insane acceleration of growth. Like, and honestly impressive that you remember all those details, because I feel like if I was to recall that, I would totally just not remember everything.
I've probably forgotten a whole heap of things along the way. I will say, for Cambodia being one of our, I guess, small markets, what I'm very proud of is the growth of Cambodia really allowed us to raise the capital to achieve those investments and to really increase the the footprint of the company. Mm-hmm. But I think for a Cambodian entity to achieve that, I think it's something I'm super proud of.
Yeah, and just looking at Cambodia maybe compared to other markets like like a Philippines or Indonesia, how has the overall business model of real estate marketplaces evolved? Whether it's like over the last 5 or 10 years, would you say? Like, what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen?
Yeah, so having businesses now in Indonesia and Philippines, well, it's been fantastic for us, and I'm sure them, in terms of it being, they're obviously similar markets, but every market is different, and each platform has monetized different or is currently monetizing differently. So to have businesses in other markets now, we can all learn and skill share and learn off each other. So, for example, I think in Indonesia, they have had experience of engaging a lot of freelance agents in their market. Well, whether for us, we've never really engaged freelance agents, but there are a lot of freelance agents, for example, in Cambodia. And then in the Philippines, although we've had experience of a business with recurring revenue, for the Philippines, they are, I think at the moment, like 90% subscription classifieds business, and they're looking into different, adding on different revenue streams closer to, say, like how we monetize today, and vice versa. So we're also looking at adding more of the classifieds business back onto our business, because now we're generating so much traffic locally and internationally, and we feel like, why not make the platform more open again to the whole market? Because I'm sure we'll get into it, but right now in Cambodia, it requires everyone in the industry to come together to ensure the real estate market in Cambodia, I guess, resets up to be much more sustainable and more sustainable growth. So we're now on the journey to opening up the platform more.
Yeah, maybe that's a good segue into, like, because you talk about the growth of Cambodia, but I think probably a lot of people listening who are, let's say, are in the real estate space here would look at 2023 and 2024 and be, probably see them as some of the most challenging years. So maybe just paint a picture of how it came undone a bit, and what are some of the main reasons for, let's say, the pullback in the real estate market, and how you see it resetting, as you were saying.
Sure. So I think 2013 was the first condominium launched in Cambodia, around that time, or maybe it was finished in 2013. I wasn't in Phnom Penh at the time. So then really from 2015, I think the real estate market started to really develop in Cambodia. And then by 2017, there was a lot of new condominium launches. There was a lot of new landed property launches as well. And the international investors became really interested in Cambodia. And for obvious reasons. One of the fastest growing sort of economies in the region, US dollar-based investment, very investor friendly. And also, a lot of investors sort of thought, well, I don't want to miss out on the next Thailand, so let's get into Cambodia. Lots of Cambodian middle class were also getting to the point where they could afford to buy property. And so there was a lot of buyers in the market from 2017 to, say, let's talk up until 2019. By 2018, there was a lot of international developers coming into Cambodia, say Japanese, Chinese, still some Korean developers, although they were a little bit earlier. And a lot of Cambodian developers were all building condominiums or local projects, and there was lots of buyers, so happy days. But no one ever considered, are we building too much or what have you? So by 2019, it was just it was just crazy town. There was launches every second week. There was lots of buyers in the market. I guess will lead, sort of leads into what we'll talk about next. But it was so easy, I guess, to sell property that no one would develop. It seemed like developers or opportunistic developers, I guess you could say, didn't really consider the quality of construction. Local and international investors were uneducated about the Cambodia real estate market. Property prices were just going up to unrealistic.
What's the peak that they got up to?
I think for high-end condominiums, maybe it was, say, 4,000
Yeah. And
per
what would you
square
say
meter.
it roughly is now for that?
I think for high-end, it's still, say, 2,500, 3,000 per square meter. So there has been obviously a big drop there.
Yeah. 40% roughly.
But so by 2019, there was just buyers everywhere, new projects everywhere, and people were starting to talk about oversupply, even before COVID. So then COVID came, and I think it was just seen as somewhat positive in the market by some real estate professionals because it need cooling.
Yeah.
Because looking regionally, something like this is, what just did turn into a real estate bubble. So COVID came. Local buyers during the start of COVID were still buying property, which was somewhat surprising to me. But by this stage, there was no new launches, so that was a good thing.
And it probably helped as well that at that point interest rates were still quite low.
Yes, so interest rates were still low, and naturally everyone just thought, okay, this is COVID. It'll probably be over in 6 months or less, and no one's forecasting what's happening to the economy. So then we got through the COVID years, and it still wasn't, to be honest, the market or prices hadn't, dropped considerably still. Then in the year post-COVID, there was actually a lot of revenge spending. Everyone thought, great, the market's back, let's buy. So that year was pretty good.
That would be 2020.
2022, correct. So that year was pretty good in terms of sales rates. And then by 2023, the local and global economy started to present other pressures in the market, and then we started to see sales rates decline. So I guess up until today, and I'll speak mainly about the condominium market because that's probably what I know the best. I can certainly provide sentiment around the other parts of the market. So what happened in the condominium market is that a lot of the projects that launched pre-COVID with poor quality construction that were overpriced. We also now have a market locally and internationally that are very well educated around Cambodia property. And if they're not, there's so many resources online from us and other, other media platforms around the market. So if someone's interested in buying in Cambodia now, they're certainly going to do a lot of research. So there's a lot of properties in the market that were launched pre-COVID that are, let's say 30% sold or 40% sold. But these developments, they're finding it difficult to move with the times and to lower their price for a variety of reasons. And one of those is that they've got previous buyers that have bought at a certain price and they're, struggling to work out how they can justify bringing down the price. Surprisingly, in the last 2 years, we have had some new condominium launches. And these condominiums are brought onto the market by trusted developers that have proven to deliver value to their previous clients, and in terms of increases in price in their investment, and also rental returns. So these developers have studied the market and said, you know what, there is an opportunity in the current market to launch projects. So we've seen, I think it's only, say, 2 or 3 new developers launch projects post-COVID at a very realistic price point, where price is reflective of the quality of the project in and centrally located. So is coming into the market at prices that we probably haven't seen since 2013 or 2014. So the developer's obviously working on a smaller margin. They're actually at a price where the middle class Cambodian can afford, and these projects' sales rates are actually very, very fast. So there's a new one that's launched recently in Tulkork. Maybe they launched 3 months ago, and maybe they're definitely at least 30% sold. Another reason why these projects are going well is that in central areas like, say, BKK1 and Tulkork, rental prices actually haven't dropped as much as what some people think. So let's say one of these developers launch a project and you can buy a 1-bedroom for $100,000 USD. You can make the assumption that when that project's finished in 3 or 4 years, that 1-bedroom in BKK1 is going to rent out from anywhere from $750 to $1,000 a month. So in that sense, that represents quite a good return. So there's a very positive part of the market, but I think with any real estate market around the world, there's always going to be parts of the market that perform well. So that's one of the areas that's performing well. A lot of the pressure is in landed property developments, commercial real estate, and land, where we've certainly see the prices decline. So if someone does have cash at the moment, it's obviously a great time to get in the market. But anyway, all this sentiment. So you've got all this sentiment. There's positive areas of the market. There's things that are selling well. Prices have dropped. There's a lot of stress in the market. I guess what I'm trying to say is a lot of people are hurting in the real estate market today, whether it's buyers, investors, and real estate companies. But ultimately, and I got to be quite sensitive around this, but ultimately it's a great thing for the country and the market, because it's what we needed. We needed to stop. We needed to restart. We need to look at this as an opportunity to come together as a real estate community, work together to make sure we're building a sustainable market. It's a great opportunity to introduce regulation or more regulation in the market. I sort of agree with not having so much regulation up until this point, because you could just build and develop, and that's what the country needed at the time. But I think to move forward, we need more regulation. Come together as an industry, work together as an industry, to create a better market moving forward. Which probably leads on to what we're now working at realestate.com as a tech company. So we're currently building a platform, I guess call it an ecosystem or a CRM for the real estate market. The system's called Connect, where all agencies, agents, property developers, but also real estate related businesses can sort of work together within this ecosystem.
Yeah, thank you for painting that picture of what's gone on in the real estate market here, especially like kind of the residential space and the dynamics that have been at play for the last handful of years. So it seems like the market is going through this point of resetting, but to a healthier degree. So it does seem over the long term a productive thing, and I think it's not that Cambodia is not unique in that it's gone through this. It happens, I think, in pretty much every country. So yeah, it's just a learning experience, and as you say, the new developers coming online are just adapting to the new reality, and that's the people that don't adapt. It's a different situation. So
well, that's a good thing too, right? Because pre-COVID, everyone was just chasing mainly international investors so they could sell at that high level. But now I think developers are building for the local market, and that any international investment that they attract is more of a bonus for them. Yeah, rather than focusing on the international investor 100%.
Cool. And maybe just looking out into the future a bit, what is the long-term vision for DGC? You're now in 5 markets. What do you what are some milestones you're trying to achieve by, let's say, the end of 2025?
Yeah, so right now, obviously, it's about consolidating, working out all the systems and processes across the group, ensuring that we're continuing to build revenue and making sure we're as profitable as possible.
Yep.
Where to's next? Possibly other markets in the region, maybe more through a merger or acquisition, and hopefully we're then looking at in the short term. Hopefully, we raise more capital to fuel that growth, and then by 2025 we could be looking at some sort of exit. Hopefully,
yeah. With the exit in mind, that's very exciting to know that this journey that you've been on for nearly a decade, right? Seeing the very fruits of your labor pay off has to be such an exciting and accomplishment and fulfilling feeling. Excuse me. So that's
yeah. I mean, of course, this is what a lot of me and everyone involved has been focused on. It'll be interesting. To be honest, I think I'm maybe like most people, really motivated by the journey. What next can we achieve as a business?
Fair enough. And just talking about yourself, what do you think are some of the habits that you install in yourself to keep you motivated or keep you accountable?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to sound pretty cheesy, but I learnt a lot about myself during COVID, to be honest, and maybe everyone did. But now, every morning, without fail, I make sure I exercise before work. If I don't exercise before work, I just don't have a really productive day. And so now I get to the point where even if I get up late, I will exercise and get to the office late, which doesn't happen often. And if I'm having a great morning and I get up early enough, I've got time to exercise and meditate before I get to the office. So that's a ritual now that I will just never, a ritual now that I'll never stop. Yeah, I just love it.
That's really nice. And if you could have coffee with anyone, living or dead, who would you choose and why?
Also, probably a typical answer, but Robert Kiyosaki, definitely. Very successful in real estate, so quite inspiring. In fact, I've got to read the book again, to be honest.
Okay. Is that the book that you would recommend to anybody that's wanting to get into the real estate industry, or?
I think I'd recommend it to anyone. I know it's a very popular book here, but whether you're looking to get into real estate, thinking about entrepreneurship and business in general, yeah, I think you can recommend that book to anyone.
Okay, awesome. And to close out the episode, and we want to thank you again for taking the time with us today on Rising Giants. We like to close it out with what is the most important piece of advice that you've ever been given?
I've got a few. Nirvana state is where you are, unless you object to it. So for me, that's more like just to stop and reflect, where you are personally or in business. So like, okay, where you are now, reflect and like, what am I doing today to achieve the ultimate? One from my mum is a problem's half solved once you start to talk about it to someone. And one more recently, and I know he's going to listen to this and a few people are going to have a go at me. But I think about 12 months ago, someone said to me, few things worth doing are easy. So I think that's a great one that I've sort of brought on board recently.
Yeah, that's something that really resonates with Max and I too, especially with growing the podcast over the past couple years, and with any sort of startup business that you're running as time goes on, right? It's you continue to work hard and put forward that effort, and you'll see that success. So on that note, Tom, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really awesome to learn about your background, learn about everything that's going on at DCH and the real estate industry. Excuse me, not DCH.
Everything that's going on at DCG.
DCG.
Oh, good.
Thank you very much. Everything that's going on at DCG, and especially the real estate industry in Cambodia too. Very enlightened with everything that's been going on. So thank you for that background, and yeah, look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.